You are looking for tips, tricks, and hacks to grow your business. Social media superstar Janet Johnson and connectedness master Terry Bean merge the powers of social and business networking for explosive business growth. You'll laugh, you'll learn, and if you apply what you hear, your business will grow. So grab a notebook, throw on your headphones, and get ready for another enriching episode of Business Growth Time.
The lifeblood of every business is leads, but you already know that. The question is, are you getting enough of them? Facebook over the past couple of years has been the greatest source of new business for many businesses. Janet E. Johnson has been working Facebook ads for years, and she is a true master at it. And she can help you in 3 different ways. She can train you and your staff on how to administer this Facebook advertising world. She can actually go in and set it up for you so you can just run them at your leisure, but know that they're set up properly. Or don't want to do it at all, she'll take care of the total management. She's got great success stories, helping businesses accrue over 100 leads in under a month and a half at great fixed rates. Janet E. Johnson is your lady. If you're looking to grow your business, get thee over to janetejohnson.com for more information.
Hey, it's your pal Terry Bean. Another fun and exciting episode of Business Growth Time. Today, we're going to talk a little bit about old dogs, new tricks in reinventing oneself. But before we get into any of that, let me say hi to my old pal, longtime friend, marketing maven, especially in the Facebook and Instagram advertising world, Miss Janet E. Johnson, where today the E is gonna have to stand for endgame. Did you see that one? You saw that one.
Of course I did.
You like that one. All right.
Of course I did.
Today's the 3-year, maybe it was a 2-year. I think it was a 2-year anniversary of me actually watching that movie. I just saw it in Facebook memories. So I was like, way to go, Facebook, for not blowing it. No spoilers. I was very impressed. I saw it like on day 3.
Yep, me too. Me too. As you know, we love those Avengers. You got it.
Yeah.
Now, I have to say, when you were doing the intro, I like the old dog thing, but I hope you're talking you, not me.
Yes, clearly I'm talking about me, and there's no chance I'd be talking about you because we're not even really the same age, although we graduated together and you're like 3 weeks younger than me. Well,
yeah,
I'm old.
So much younger.
You
exactly.
are way young. Look at all this.
So we can call you the old dog.
Yeah, clearly. Yeah. Well, would you like to be called the new tricks? Silly rabbit, you walked right into that one.
Oh my gosh,
that's perfect.
I'd be called an old cat, maybe, but just kidding.
My aunt used to always refer to whether I was bringing over any of those little trick girls. Right, she was always very worried about the trick girls. So,
oh, that's hilarious. Yeah, well, we learn something new about Terry every time, huh?
Yeah. Maybe Terry should be less of an open book. Nah, what fun would that
Well,
be?
Today we're going to talk about you not being an old dog, but just, well, kind of. I mean, the old dog, new tricks, talking about your change in life at your age, which, yes, we're both 50. We already admitted that on the show, so we have to admit it again, I guess.
Yeah, that's true.
So, yeah. So at 50 years old, which people think, well, I mean, I guess after life is over. I mean, really, we're halfway
40%.
there.
Like if I'm looking at my battery on my cell phone, I'm at like the 40% line.
40.
I'm thinking I'm going to go to about 115. Yeah, and be healthy.
I don't know that I want to go to 115.
No, healthy, cognizant, able to do shit, and then one day I'm just going to drop dead. Right, I'm going to be like all walking around mowing my yard, and then the next day I'll be dead, and then people will be like, wow, what happened to that guy? He lived a long time and was cool, and then he's dead, and that's okay, and I'm all right with that. I think that's how it's going to go.
That's interesting. Well, we'll see. I don't know since I'm younger than you, I might still be alive too.
Would you like, do you think we'll still be recording this episode in this show at that point? Wouldn't that be great? Like, like we'll put out an episode. Hey, Terry's doing really well. Oh, sorry, Terry's dead.
Oh, Terry's gone. He was mowing the lawn.
It's perfect because I've got a couple of months ago, this also ties in. So I'm holding a coin that you can't see and you can't read anyway, but it says memento mori on it. And memento mori is a Latin phrase that basically means death in the moment, right? And the back of the coin says you could leave life right now. And so there's a guy named Ryan Holiday, and Ryan Holiday has written a couple of really interesting books, and more importantly, runs a website called The Daily Stoic, where he's reciting lessons from Marcus Aurelius and Epictetus and Seneca and all these great thinkers from a couple of thousand years ago, when people weren't necessarily worried about philosophy, they were worried about living, and they realized that living was right. If you didn't have the right mindset about it and understanding that death is probably the most important part of our life, and not to take it too seriously, that you would have a challenge with your life, right? If you get hung up on all the little stuff. And so, long story longer, I'm going to just keep rolling on it. A couple of things about this. One is I was reading this book called The Obstacle is the Way. I highly, highly, highly recommend it. And because I was reading it, it referenced another book that Ryan Holiday wrote called Ego is the Enemy. And so I did this little podcast search and I said, I want to listen to a show. I don't want to necessarily read Ego is the Enemy. I just want to listen to a podcast. And I found this podcast called Moonshots. And Moonshots, which you may have seen on Instagram or LinkedIn a few times, has quickly become my all-time favorite podcast. These guys are about 127 episodes in. And I know that because I just listened to episode 127 this past week. And they basically, their format's so cool. They listen to clips of famous people: Mark Cuban, Oprah Winfrey, Michael Jordan, Ryan Holiday, Simon Sinek, great thinkers, Warren Buffett, Bill Gates, whomever, right? They take famous innovators is the theme. They break down their thoughts and the lessons that you can take from them. So they're not waiting for these guys to show up and be a guest. They're just taking what's in the public domain, dissecting their thoughts, adding their flavor to it, and that's their show. And it's just so precisely and brilliantly done. And I've been enjoying it quite a bit. And so two things about Moonshots, and then I'll get back to the original show. One, my favorite episode I just listened to over the weekend was with Matthew McConaughey, and that's episode 126. And Matthew McConaughey tells a great story about how he was so typecast in romantic comedy, that every offer he was getting was romantic comedy. And he's like, I don't want to do that. I didn't realize the guy was a lawyer before he became an actor. I always thought he was just kind of some cute dude with nice abs and maybe a box of rocks in his head. So I never really paid attention. Turns out he's a lot more than a pretty face and a rock's a hard set of abs. So he
For sure.
He decides he doesn't want to do rom-com, tells his agent, I don't want to hear about it unless the offer is ridiculous. One day he gets a script, $8 million. He reads the script. He says, it's all right, but no, I'm sticking to my guns. I'm not doing this. And he'd been out of work for about 6 months at this time. And the agent says, no, he doesn't want to do it. The producers say, we'll give him 10. He says, no, I don't want to do it. The producers say, we'll give him 12 and a half. He says, no, I don't want to do it. The producers say, we'll give him $15 million. So Matthew McConaughey says, you know what? Maybe I better look at that script again for $15 million. And he said, you know what? At $15 million, the script was funnier. There were a lot more possibilities, right? This script all of a sudden seemed really good. I could see myself in the role at $15 million. But he still said no. He stuck to his guns. He turned it down again. And that sent a message through Hollywood that he was not doing romantic comedies anymore. And in that time, he tells a story about he did something because he didn't get work for another 16 months. He was out of the world for 22 months. He said, I unbranded myself. Unbranded, right? We always talk about rebrands, but who's ever talking about this unbranding? And it really hit home with me because I've been running around for the last decade and a half as this networker guy, connector guy, as a speaker guy, as this business coach guy. And now I'm in a whole different world. I'm a vice president of sales and marketing for an insurance company. And if you would have told me 5 years ago, 3 months, 6 months ago, whatever, a year ago, 10 years ago, that I was going to be working in an insurance company, we would have laughed hard, both of us. We would have been like, that's hilarious. And I'm loving it. And I'm loving every minute of it. But it's interesting to me because I feel like you spend all this time building this brand equity, all this time trying to train people who you are. If you look at past episodes, you've heard me say, all this time trying to own spot one in your network's mental Rolodex, right?
Yeah.
How do you do that? And now I've got to change that perception. I got to change that story. I got to get people thinking of me at very, very different times now. And it's a fascinating process. So old dogs, new tricks. That's what we're going to chat a little bit about after a 4-minute dissertation about Matthew McConaughey.
That was good. Well, that was very good. And how did Matthew McConaughey after that, though? He ended up probably with a serious role. I remember him losing a bunch of weight.
He lost some weight.
For a movie that he had to do, that was a serious movie.
Emaciated, right?
Yeah, it was a very serious movie. So I know he did change his ways of doing things for sure. He was in Magic Mike too. I don't think that was a romantic comedy. At least his role wasn't.
Shockingly, I never saw that.
Well, I saw it a couple times. But
was he in Brokeback Mountain too? Was that him or no?
Might have been. I didn't see that movie, but yeah, he might have been. So so he did get the serious role, so it ended up shifting.
Hey, it's your pal Terry Bean, and I've got some exciting news. Recently, I joined PKIG.com, a great insurance carrier, independent agent, as their VP of sales. We help businesses get all of their assets covered. We also do the same for your personal lines, your home, your auto, and we can even help insure your life, because ultimately, of all the things we have, making sure your loved ones are covered when you're gone might be the most important thing we do. So if you've got any insurance needs, reach out to me. You can find me at Terry Bean at PKIG.com or on any of the social networks where you find yourself.
That's interesting because what you're talking about also, like the unbranding part of things, I think there's a lot of people within this last year because of COVID that probably just needed to completely unbrand themselves from what they were doing. Think if you were in the events area, like events, speakers.
Hi, that's why I'm in the insurance business.
Exactly.
Right. There was virtual event is secret code for we're paying the speaker 20% of what we would have paid them last time. That's what that meant.
If you even get paid at all.
If you get paid at all, right? Now you're trying to stay relevant. It's done, right? Restaurants are having difficulties too, but things that people have been doing for years and years and years over. The conferences are done. They don't exist.
They're done. So I mean, I think
are done. They're coming back finally, but we're talking 14 or 15 months. And the concerts I'm seeing now are July and August and September. They're still not here, right? They're in the fall, late summer.
Yeah.
So,
and it's interesting because if you look at what people have done that are in those fields, some have just said they can't do anything, and some have made it work. So it's very interesting to see. And some have completely shifted and just went into a completely, like I know a speaker, for instance, he was, that's what he did for a living. He was a speaker. Okay. Fully. That's what he did. And when this hit, he launched an e-commerce store of masks. He did
Nice.
quite well with that, So bottom line is like, that's unbranding. I mean, that is like completely changing what you're doing. Even though you're known like you are, Terry, you're known, you have a community of people that you know and network with for many, many, many years. So you're known out there, but now he's the same way, but you just completely shifted. So unbranding is an interesting word. I've heard of rebranding. Unbranding is, I feel like they are a little bit two different things.
They are totally different things, right? Because you have to, rebranding is you're trying to jump a chasm. You're trying to take people with you from here to there. Unbranding is you're trying to jump into the chasm, maybe have people forget everything they knew, and then start over. It's a wild construct that until I heard that, again, episode 126, I believe, Moonshots podcast, until I'd heard that, I'd never contemplated it. And so it's a neat concept. It's a neat construct. And maybe something you should, not you personally, but you, Ernie, in general, you probably need to think about where you are and what you might need to do that with in your business. We've probably talked, no doubt, about my friend Barry Demp in the past, and Barry Demp's a real prominent business coach here in the Detroit area. And one of my favorite lessons from Barry is the 4-word lesson: start, stop, more, less. What do you need to start doing? What do you need to stop doing? What do you need to do more of? What do you need to do less of? Right. And it's in that same vein that you can get to these important questions important answers to that very important question.
That's good. That's good. And I look at even my world right now where I've been thinking about this for a few months, that I've done everything online marketing, but for some odd reason, I niched into Facebook and Instagram, and then I niched into just the ads. But my whole business relies on Facebook and Instagram. Right. So at some point, I will have to shift and rebrand. I know it. It's not going to last forever. It just isn't. And I've had to do this many times throughout my, it used to be, I used to put people at the top of Google and do the SEO stuff. I mean, so it's just, but I think that's a rebrand because people still know me as an internet person, whereas you're talking a whole different unbrand is the completely 100% change.
Different. So very different. We were talking about our recent vacations. I was in Sand Key, right outside of Clearwater, and the young lady that's the head of guest services, the outside area, right? She was managing the pool area and the bar area that's outside and the beach and all that fun stuff. And a year ago, she was touring with the Lion King on Ice as the featured skater. And she ran down to visit a friend in Florida for a couple of weeks because living in New York City wasn't going to be a fun situation in March and April of 2020. So she's like, I'll go hang out on the beach for a couple of weeks. This will be cool. And, a couple of weeks turns into a couple of months real quick in COVID time. And next thing you know, she's like, I need an entirely new world. And she ended up divorcing her husband because he's like, no, I'm a performer. I can't do anything other than perform, and it's like, get over yourself, dude. There's no performing, right?
No.
Broadway's maybe going to open in September, I think. Maybe it was July, but nothing forever, 16 months without a paycheck, right? And maybe you get some stimulus money and maybe you get some unemployment. So I shouldn't say like she was flat broke, but that's not the same thing. Right. Yeah. And not to mention, what does that do to your mentality? So anyway, it's been an interesting run. So
tell us a little bit about this new role of yours and, why we're unbranding you.
Yeah, for sure. So, I've been working with the folks here in this company, PKIG, Phil Klein Insurance Group. PKIG.com for those of us who are web savvy. I've been working with the owner, Phil Klein, for a couple of years. I actually met them. I was doing some cold calling through LinkedIn to do some LinkedIn training for insurance companies. So I was reaching out to vice presidents of sales and insurance companies and said, I'm looking to do some training. And so they said, yeah, come on in, let's talk. And so I did, and I do some debriefing and I learned some things, and I said, let me meet the owner. And so he and I chatted and got along, and he's like, you know what, I'm looking for a coach, and you just kind of showed up at the right time in the right place. And he's like, let's do some cool stuff. And I said, all right, good. And so we worked together for about a year or so. And then COVID hit. And he kept me on through COVID, and I was so grateful as a coach who's not going into the office to work with him or some people on his team. It was an amazing 3 months for him to keep paying me. I did some Zoom stuff, but it just wasn't a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And then, fast forward, we talked about some ideas about some growth stuff and some other challenges that were going on inside the company. And I said, it's time to find some new people. And I suggested a way for him to get, I said, I need, let's find the right qualities, the right qualifications. And it's like I'm hemming and hawing because this is a real sensitive story here. So I'm trying to be mindful of how I share it.
Well, no, you actually said a few things in that were interesting to me. If we do back it up, cold calling,
right?
Great.
Using LinkedIn to
That's great.
And it wasn't like on the phone, but it was cold messaging through LinkedIn.
Okay. So cold work, that still works. It can work. It definitely can, so that, and then it also shows a transition when you build rapport with people. It's kind of, why you're in this position now is because of who you knew. Like you met, and then you built that relationship and it kept going and going and going. And then suddenly it became a position. Whereas originally it was just like, I was going to, coach your company, or actually you were just originally going to train a few people, on LinkedIn.
Right.
So
it was day one. My thought was I'm going to go in there on a few hours on a Saturday, and that's going to be the end of the experiment. Right. And it turned into a year and a half of coaching, some exceptional timing, and some other things happening that led to, hey, maybe you'd be a good guy to help take us to the next level. And
now, do you think COVID had anything to do with this transition? Like your inner feelings because of COVID, or theirs, or whatever? Do you think COVID had something to do with it?
On my side, 95%, right? 95% true, right? If it wasn't for COVID, I might have not been as open to the idea as I frankly had to be, right? I don't know about on their side. It may or may not have had any play on it, but for me, COVID definitely did, because as I said earlier, right, the idea of getting in the insurance business wasn't anything I'd ever really thought about. But because of the conversation, because of the opportunity, because of the potential, because of the owner himself, it just made a ton of sense to me. What's fascinating is for a very long time, like the last 10 years, I've known in my heart of hearts that I'm not a CEO level entrepreneur with any of the things that I was doing, right? Like I've thought for a long time, what would be great is for me to go find someone that's really committed to doing a thing and be their number two, because my world's all about opportunity, right? And so if you're looking for opportunities, that's all you see. And so if that's all you see, that's all that shows up. And if that's all that shows up and you don't have the right systems and processes to take advantage of all the opportunities, it becomes ridiculously overwhelming, right? In any given moment over the last decade, I have had hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of opportunity floating around my head. But before I could execute on any of them, the next one would show up. And I'm a shiny object guy. So I was like, all right, let's go run down that path. Okay, let's go run down that path. Let's go run down that path. And I'm only one human being. So that was really the challenge. So to be instilled in a role, and I don't want to say I'm number 2, but I'm on the leadership team, and there's there's 4 of us that are on the management team. That to be in a space where here's my carve, right? I got sales, I got marketing. If it falls into these pieces, it's my charge at this point. And so it's been really, really cool to put myself in there.
Well, in reality, you've been doing all that for your whole existence.
That's right. And that's exactly it. But, you start talking about the new dogs, new tricks piece, and I'm holding up my property and casualty insurance book. And there's a supplement book that's another 100 pages that goes along with this. And if I open to the last page, I don't want to count the glossary because that's no fun. But if I open to the last page here, it's about 522 pages. And I went from not knowing anything in this book to passing a licensing exam in 2 weeks, right? So it's kind of old dogs, new tricks is the thing here. And so, I'm not saying I know everything in this book forward, backwards, and sideways, but I am saying that I'm a significantly licensed member of the insurance community at this point, which is kind of crazy. And I was telling a friend of mine, if you would have asked me 3 or 4 years ago, what's been the most impactful, most significant period of growth in your life, I would have said the ages 24 to 28. I feel like I learned a lot. I feel like I had a great understanding of how the world works. I feel like I got set on the path that I'm on right now, and just understanding my place in the universe. And for me, right, I recognize that that's very early in life for a lot of people. Like I knew at 26, 27 that I understood things that most people don't figure out until 40, 50, sometimes even later. So I had like a head start there, and it was based on the stuff I was reading and based on the introspection and the meditation that I was doing at a young age. And then 2020 happened. And the one thing that I've said a dozen times since 2020 happened is I don't know shit. Everything I thought I knew may or may not be right. It could be totally wrong. I know nothing at this point, which has been a fascinating understanding in its own right. And then the tail end of 2020, I ended up stepping into this role, and it's been phenomenal. I've got a great team of 7 insurance agents, risk managers that I lead. We've got a commercial division where we're going out and we're helping businesses make sure that they have the property covered, they have all the liability covered, because there's 2 sides to insurance: the things you own and the things that could happen that impact other people. Both have to be covered. So we do a lot of work with buildings and property and the assets inside of them, and automobiles that companies might own. We also have some niches where we practice in the cannabis space. So if people are looking to insure their grow or insure their crop or insure their retail store. And then another area that's really big and is continuing to grow, and a challenge that it will interest you, is cybersecurity. Right. And that's a big piece that's going on. And it's not just about, if you get hacked and somebody takes the credit card numbers that you have on file, which you're certainly liable and responsible for. But it's even as easy as you post something on social media that you don't have the rights to, right? You don't have it's like a copywritten graphic. And I've been challenged with that in the past. If you don't have the right permission to use it.
I got sued.
Did you?
One on my blog. Yep.
How'd that work out? I'm curious.
Paid $150. I talked him down in cost, and it was a picture that had Zuckerberg on it.
Okay. Nice. Yeah. Oh yeah. I'm sure they're easy to.
2013, and I just got it a year ago. So that's how long they chase you down and they look for those pictures. Yeah. Cybersecurity. That's interesting. That's very, there's lots of, you've got lots of areas that you cover. I mean, that's wow.
That's a big one. That's a big one. So it's been fun, right? And with my network that I have here in town, it's been a great opportunity to.
So where can you serve? The Michigan area or
just the state? Yep, just inside the state of Michigan.
Okay, so if you're listening and you're in the state of Michigan, okay, that's where Terry can provide you help with any type of insurance. Pretty much, it sounds like. I mean,
and not health, right? So auto, home.
Got it.
Life and then commercial.
Usually health is separate, from that.
Health is separate, and so that's a very different thing. And what's nice about it is we've got like 20 different agents or carriers that we work with. So instead of being like with Allstate or State Farm or anyone that's a captive, right? They only can represent one agent. Or one carrier, we can shop, and it's crazy because the difference between the multitude of carriers. I've run exactly 2 quotes for people because I'm not in the insuring people business. I'm in the helping my team insure people business. But the difference was on a friend of mine has a car. It's a Range Rover. It's a nice vehicle, but to insure his single vehicle, I saw pricing that was over $900 difference over the course of the year, right? For the exact same car, the same coverage, almost $1,000 difference based on the carrier, right? So, you have choices. You can sit and call all these different insurance carriers yourself, or you can call us and let us do shopping for you. Why not do
I like it. I like that. Yeah, that's a must. I like that concept for sure. Yeah. I would have you shop for me if you were in Minnesota, but
well, maybe we'll have to get licensed in Minnesota.
There you go. There's your second state. Well, let's finish this up with how they can reach you and what the best way is to learn more.
Certainly. The best way to reach me is through pkig.com, right? That's the website. Obviously, Terry Bean on LinkedIn, Try Bean. You can find me on Facebook or Instagram, or even my own website, trybean.com. Or through businessgrowthtime.com. I'm still fairly ubiquitous, right? And so it's an interesting piece when we talk about that unbranding side of things is like how deep do you go? What do you have to scrub off the internet, right? We were talking about it in an earlier show about you've got stuff that's out there that you may not want people to see, but it's not like, well, am I going to take it down?
Can't disappear. No, it's like, unless it's terrible, but right. We don't have anything like terrible.
No, nothing terrible.
I agree. And then businessgrowthtime.com/blog. You can see all our past episodes and learn a lot about business growth. Thank you, Terry. This was interesting to hear. And I think we had a lot of lessons throughout it. So that was great.
Good time.
Appreciate your time. All right. Thank you.